and they are always bitching to me about their kids who are like in their 20s, and they're like super uber woke, and they're driving their parents crazy. And everything is like, you don't get it, Mom. That's old thinking. And I'm like, don't get what? Abolish the police? Tear down statues of Lincoln? Maybe give communism another shot? Get rid of the Border Patrol? Get rid of capitalism? White supremacy has never been worse. Gender is always just a social construct. It's okay to have penises in the women's swimming pool in women's prisons. Okay, no, it's not that I'm old. It's that your ideas are stupid.
In this heated segment, Bill Maher steps into the lion's den once again, this time at the Aspen Ideas Festival, where he faces a predominantly left-leaning crowd. Known for his ability to stir up controversy even among his own, Bill Maher doesn't hold back. He critiques the radical direction of the Democratic Party, highlighting how their extreme viewpoints are alienating everyday Americans. It's always intriguing to watch Maher navigate these spaces where he manages to simultaneously identify as a liberal while calling out the hypocrisy and contradictions of his peers. Despite still aligning with the left, Maher's willingness to speak uncomfortable truths makes him a powerful voice in these discussions. During this festival, he addresses how the left is increasingly out of touch with mainstream America, which could explain their recent political struggles. His candid remarks about the disconnect between the so-called intellectual elites and average citizens leave many stunned, as he fearlessly points out the flaws in their thinking. This is why Maher remains such an impactful figure. He can walk into any left-wing event, challenge their beliefs, and still command respect, even when his words cut deep. Let's see how Bill Maher manages to confront the audience at Aspen and hold up a mirror to the progressive echo chamber.
We've seen this unbelievable sort of aphasia that seems to have set in, and where, I mean, Trump goes to Washington and they literally line up these, like absolute moral amoeba to sort of turn themselves around and kiss his ring. It's an amazing thing to see. I mean, it's like a cult. Do you have any sort of explanation of how this is going to happen to so many formerly, seem sensible people who even said, as you said, after January the 6th, that this
part of it, the left has to own. They are aggressively anti-common sense. The Democrats keep running on this one idea, saying to the American people, you can't possibly think you can do worse than Donald Trump. And they keep saying, yes, we can. Yeah. Yes, we can. And I understand that. I do. I would never vote for Donald Trump. And as I said, I think the Republicans are worse. But yeah, when it's funny, when I talk to, my friends around my age, 40, and they are always bitching to me about their kids who are like in their 20s, and they're like super uber woke, and they're driving their parents crazy. And everything is like, you don't get it, Mom. That's old thinking. And I'm like, don't get what? Abolish the police? Tear down statues of Lincoln? Maybe give communism another shot? Get rid of the Border Patrol? Get rid of capitalism? White supremacy has never been worse. Gender is always just a social construct. It's okay to have penises in the women's swimming pool in women's prisons. Okay, no, it's not that I'm old. It's that your ideas are stupid.
The debate takes an intriguing turn as Bill Maher finds himself addressing some hard truths at the Aspen Ideas Festival. The host, a long-standing liberal voice, steps into a challenging environment filled with so-called intellectual elites who are unaccustomed to having their beliefs called out in such a direct manner. What makes this exchange powerful is how Maher, despite his left-leaning roots, openly critiques the Democratic Party's growing disconnect from mainstream America. The interviewer, clearly uncomfortable with Maher's candid assessment, struggles to keep a straight face as he lays out the reality of what the political and cultural left has come to represent. Maher's blunt honesty causes a visible reaction, showcasing the divide between those who see the flaws in the current direction of liberal ideology and those who blindly follow it. Maher, who many still consider an intellectual, remains a Democrat at heart, but he doesn't shy away from calling out the extreme left. His frustration lies in how figures on his side of the aisle have become so entrenched in their dogma that they fail to recognize how out of touch they are with regular Americans. The irony here is that Maher's critique forces the left to confront their own ideas at an event that prides itself on being a melting pot of progressive thought. This debate is more than just an intellectual exercise. It's a wake-up call to the left, reminding them that their obsession with labels, demonization, and insults has taken precedence over genuine policy discussions. Maher highlights that while they focus on labeling opponents as racist or fascist, they're avoiding the crucial issues at hand. He effectively argues that this failure to engage with real ideas is why the left is losing ground in the political landscape. It's refreshing to see someone like Maher, a figure many grew up admiring, take on the radical elements within his own party and advocate for a return to sensible discourse. Watch how Maher dismantles the left's echo chamber and brings the discussion back to what truly matters: ideas.
And
Well, okay, so you're very cantankerous.
when people
obviously.
talk about Trump, that's what they should be talking about. Like, why do people, because a lot of conservatives say to me, what you don't get about Trump is we don't like him either.
Yeah, they just hate the other stuff more.
And I don't understand. I don't blame them, because a lot of it is closer to their own home. Like the things you hate about Trump, democracy, I understand why that's the biggest issue. But a lot of people, it's kind of vague. Ukraine, it's very far away. But, you know, the stuff about family and race and gender, it's very close to their own home.
Yeah, and yet you could argue that it's the sort of the octogenarians who are really causing most of the problems at the moment. I mean, you know, you're quite sort of tough on the millennials, but you know they have to deal with all these octogenarians who refuse to leave the stage, who've left them bankrupt, who've taken all their social security. So there is a lot of angst there.
Actually, the older people this time are for Biden.
Yeah,
this is the first time in many, many elections where the older crowd, that's why with my editorial Friday night was talking about this, for the first time they are lining up behind Biden more than the Republican. You know, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean to the millennials or the Gen Zs, but you know, when I see them with their Queers for Palestine banners,
I know that's the one that really
like,
gets to you.
I'm out. Okay.
I know.
In this part of the discussion, the focus shifts to generational perspectives, and the comment highlights how often Gen X is overlooked in these political conversations. It's intriguing to note how the dialogue is typically framed around boomers, millennials, and Gen Z, while the contribution and potential impact of Gen X is frequently left out. The speaker points out that it's Gen X who might ultimately bring a sense of balance and clarity amidst the chaos, if only they were given a chance. This insight connects to a broader observation about Bill Maher. While he's still firmly rooted in his left-wing ideology, he's willing to step back and honestly assess the current state of the left. He's not leaving his ideological bubble, but at least he's critically evaluating why the left is losing ground in the cultural and political arenas. This comment sets up a comparison between Maher and other left-wing celebrities, like Whoopi Goldberg, who approach political conversations differently. Instead of engaging in honest introspection, celebrities like Whoopi default to knee-jerk reactions whenever Donald Trump's name is mentioned. See how Whoopi and her co-hosts on The View handle these discussions with a very different tone and style.
I don't think that we have to, I think it would be remiss of us to not say, Joe Biden knows how to do this.
Yes.
He knows how to do this. He's quite good at this. And, you know, you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing? Because Trump is out there calling...
Did you say his name?
I said his name.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a trick and it made me do it. But I'm just...
It's fascinating to see just how far some people will go to avoid even acknowledging Donald Trump by name. Take Whoopi Goldberg, for example. She won't even say his name, opting instead for the childish you-know-who. It's as if she thinks avoiding his name somehow diminishes his significance, but it just makes her seem petty and immature. They despise him so intensely that they can't even bring themselves to say his name out loud, like kids throwing a tantrum because things aren't going their way. This kind of behavior doesn't strengthen their arguments. It just shows how emotionally driven and disconnected from logical discourse they are. And then there's Bill Maher, who's fully aware of how off the rails the Democratic Party has become, yet he still votes for them. He's constantly pointing out their flaws, criticizing their extreme stances on LGBTQ issues, transgenderism, and other controversial policies that are arguably contributing to economic and social decline. But despite acknowledging all of this, he remains committed to the party, almost like he's afraid of being seen as a racist Republican if he changes his stance. It's frustrating because he's made it clear that he finds many of the Democratic policies absurd, yet he refuses to stop supporting them. It's almost as if he's stuck in a cycle of cognitive dissonance, unwilling to see that his vote is part of what enables these extreme agendas to persist. Maybe he's slowly coming to terms with reality, but he's not quite there yet. At this point, his loyalty to the Democrats makes no sense when he agrees with many conservative policies, especially on taxes and governance. It's not even about liking Trump or agreeing with his personality. It's about backing policies that actually work. Bill Maher is practically voting against his own interests while openly criticizing the very party he supports. If he can call out the Democrats for being unhinged, why continue voting for them? It's time to set aside the tribal mentality and vote based on what really matters, policies that benefit the country. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Maher will ever break free from this contradiction, or is he too stuck in his ways?